officer of the National Civil War Museum up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Welcome to our virtual gala. Now, normally every year we have a packed crowd here for our gala in the fall. It's our only fundraising event of the year. And this year we're not able to do that because of COVID. So we hope you'll stay tuned and you'll help us over the next half hour. Now, I'm going to walk up to the museum. I'm going to get settled in there. And while I do, we're going to leave you with a little tour virtually of the museum. Thanks.
Located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the National Civil War Museum's wide collection of firearms, clothing, letters, and photographs chronicle the triumphs and tragedies of our nation's Civil War. Housing more than 4,400 three-dimensional artifacts and 21,000 archival pieces on 2 floors, the museum's collection illustrates the gunfire, struggle, and bloodshed of the war which lasted from 1861 to 1865. Starting on the 2nd floor, the first 10 exhibits cover the reasons the war broke out, how armies were formed, the weapons and equipment that were used, campaign plans, battle maps, and even the music of the era. The 1st floor of the museum holds details of the Battle of Gettysburg, the roles of women, the participation of the Navy, battle maps, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the abolition of slavery, the origins of the Civil Rights Movement, and the troubling cost of war. The National Civil War Museum, serving as a monument to inspire lifelong learning about the American Civil War.
I'm inside the rotunda at the National Civil War Museum, and on a night of our gala, this rotunda is packed. It's got tables, it's got food and caterers, it's got great company and great conversation. So right now, it seems a little barren, but we're not going to let that dampen our spirits. I want to tell you a little bit about the mission of the museum. It's the mission of the museum to be a national center for lifelong learning related to the American Civil War. And I'm not going to quote the whole mission statement. Just go over to the National Civil War Museum's webpage and you can take a look at it there. But we're to make a balanced presentation, which means we're going to cover all sides of the American Civil War. This is the only museum in the whole world that was designed and constructed and a collection was put together and brought here to tell a complete story about the American Civil War. And we've been doing that for 19 years. What's really great about this museum is it doesn't delve down into detail into a lot of subjects, but it covers the great context related to the American Civil War. And there's a lot of subjects and themes covered here that you don't find a lot of places, including women in the American Civil War, medicine in the American Civil War, music in the American Civil War, African American participation in the American Civil War, and so on here. Now, I want to turn this over to our board chairman, Jeff Gelbert. He's the board chairman this year, and he's got a special message for you. So, Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Wayne. I'm Jeff Gelbert, board chair of the National Civil War Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We thank you for joining us tonight for this virtual event to help us fundraise. I also want to thank the members of the board of directors here at the museum who volunteer their time and efforts to support the mission here at the museum. Thank you again, and we appreciate your continuing to follow us on social media to support our museum. Enjoy and have a good night.
Jeff, thanks so much for that message. I'm inside the First Shot Gallery here at the National Civil War Museum, and you come through 2 previous galleries to get here. These galleries tell individual stories related to the Civil War. Each of them stand alone, but they also are part of a larger theme. So the first gallery sets up the context of why we have an American Civil War, the conflict between the North and the South. The second gallery comes in and talks about slavery, of course, the cause of the American Civil War. And then this gallery leads us to the first shots with this great panoramic view over my shoulder at Fort Sumter in April of 1861. Now, Fort Sumter was a brick fort. We're using bricks here metaphorically to tell stories related to the Civil War. It takes many bricks to build a house. It takes many stories, of course, to build a narrative. And I want to send you out to Mary Beth on the Walk of Valor.
Hello, I'm Mary Beth Kirkus. I'm the Director of Development here at the National Civil War Museum. Thanks for the introduction, Wayne. I'm standing in what I think is one of the most beautiful spots of the National Civil War Museum. Behind me, you can see a stunning view of the Susquehanna Valley. That's because we're at the highest point in the city of Harrisburg, located in Reservoir Park. This breathtaking view really is what caught my interest the first day I was here. But what intrigued me were the bricks below my feet. This is our Walk of Valor. It's one of 2 permanent landscape features here at the National Civil War Museum. Our Friends Walkway, located behind the museum, is a place for friends and donors to memorialize modern events here. You can remember a birthday, retirement, or even the passing of a loved one. But our Walk of Valor tells the stories of the American Civil War. Each one of the bricks, placed here by states of service, memorializes an individual who served in either army of the American Civil War. There are Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers. There are men, there are women, and each one of them remembered in a very special way. This is one of the ways that you can support the National Civil War Museum. But this evening's event is important because it's a fundraiser to support our education and preservation mission. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask for a donation. So we're going to make it a little bit more exciting to make a gift to the National Civil War Museum tonight. If you are one of the first 100 people to donate $100 or more to our Blue and Gray Gala, you will be invited to join us for our first kickoff event when we're able to gather together once again. If you make a gift of $50 or more, you will be entered into a drawing for an exclusive Gettysburg Battlefield tour with our CEO and licensed battlefield guide, Wayne Motz, for yourself and 3 guests. If you make a gift of $25 or more, you will be entered into a drawing to go on a behind-the-scenes tour here at the museum with our curator, Brett Kelly, for yourself and 3 guests. This is a really unique way to see some of the artifacts that aren't on display here at the museum and to hear some very interesting stories. How do you do that? Well, below this video, you'll find a link. Click that link and it'll take you directly to our donation page. Or you can go to our website, www.nationalcivilwarmuseum.org, and click the big blue donate button. Every gift helps, and we hope we can count on your support. Now, I could stand here and tell you stories of why our donors make gifts to the museum, but I'm going to instead turn it over to our friend, our donor, and our supporting member, Catherine Stevens. She'd like to tell her story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Stevens, and my great-great-grandfather, Widener Harvey Spira, was a major in the 17th Pennsylvania Cavalry during the Civil War. I was fortunate enough to inherit the collection of his artifacts, which my dad had displayed in our home for many years when I was growing up. You'll see several of them during the slideshow which accompanies this audio. We proudly displayed many of them in our own home for several years. In the summer of 2017, my husband and I went to the Antiques Roadshow Appraisal Day, which was held in our town. We knew we had something special when the presentation of only 6 of the approximately 200 items in our collection rendered our appraiser speechless. He told us he'd been appraising Civil War memorabilia for many years and had never seen a collection of this depth and breadth. We were, to say the least, stunned and pleased. At that point, we had 2 choices: sell the collection to the highest bidder or donate it to a museum for preservation and safekeeping. After speaking with Brett Kelly in Harrisburg, we knew we had found a home for our artifacts. In October of 2018, we made the trip to the museum to donate the collection, and I can honestly tell you it was one of the most rewarding and memorable experiences of our lives. The enthusiasm and passion this staff has for their work is contagious. I've lived in many cities in the U.S., from Boston to Chicago to Dallas and L.A., and this museum rivals or tops any I've visited in all 4 of these major cities. The museum is a true treasure. During a time when some would like to erase parts of our country's history, the National Civil War Museum is working diligently to preserve it. Through the donation of artifacts, individual and family memberships, sustaining monthly contributions, and other gifts, the museum ensures that our country's history will be preserved and enjoyed for many generations to come. Restoring just one artifact can cost thousands, but it's so important. I strongly encourage you to support these efforts in any way you can. If you're fortunate enough to have Civil War artifacts from your family, please consider donating them. But you can also help the museum by becoming a member and further supporting their work with an ongoing monthly donation. Every donation, no matter the amount, is greatly appreciated, and your dollars are used wisely to maximum benefit. I'd like to thank the staff of the museum for giving me the chance to share my family's story with you. I'm so proud of my family's legacy, and I'm honored and pleased to know that Major Spear's artifacts, letters from the battlefield, and his brick in the Walk of Valor will be preserved and enjoyed by many for generations to come. Thank you for listening, and I sincerely hope you will consider supporting this incredibly valuable and important work.
Thank you, Catherine and Mary Beth. One of the biggest questions that we get here at the National Civil War Museum is why Harrisburg? Why is the National Civil War Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania? And my response to that is, why not? Let me tell you why the National Civil War Museum fits perfect here at the state capitol in Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. First of all, Harrisburg was the site of Camp Curtin. Camp Curtin was the largest military training camp in the North during the Civil War, with over 300,000 soldiers trained. And that diorama is right over my shoulder here inside the museum as part of our presentation. Now, not only was Harrisburg a big training ground for Civil War soldiers, but it also was a major railhead at the time of the American Civil War. If you wanted to move troops from the north, northeast, or from the west and get them to the south, you had to pass through Harrisburg as a railhead. In addition to that, in 1863, when Robert E. Lee starts his invasion up through Maryland and into Pennsylvania, he decides when he gets up here that Harrisburg would be a right target. And he's only turned away from here when he gets intelligence that the Union Army is south and concentrating around the area where Gettysburg is located. That's what he orders, to concentrate his army around the Gettysburg area here. So Harrisburg, a very, very important place at the time of the American Civil War. Now I want to turn it over to Brett Kelly, our curator, and he's going to talk a little bit about artifacts and preservation.
Thanks, Wayne. Hi, my name is Brett Kelly. I'm the curator of collections here at the National Civil War Museum. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the artifacts in our collection and why we preserve them. Ever since I was a young man, I can remember going to museums and looking at the artifacts and being inspired by them. Looking at them up close, I could see the cracks in the leather, I could see the brush strokes in the paint, and it inspired me. It made me want to learn more about history, and that's why we're here. We want our visitors to learn more about history. We want them to be excited about it. Now, the artifacts, when they come in, some of them aren't in that great a shape, but that doesn't necessarily matter because the history is still there. The patina is still there. They might be ripped or they might be dinged, but all of those dings and all that dirt tells a story. It tells the story of that artifact, and that's what we want to get across. We preserve these items so that our visitors can get excited when they see them. However, it's not inexpensive to preserve artifacts. We get in three-dimensional artifacts like this hat that was worn by a member of the 2nd Pennsylvania Cavalry who fought at Gettysburg. As you can see, it's in pretty rough condition. There are some pieces that are separated. There are some pieces that are missing. In order to have this in the condition to get it on display, we would need to have it conserved. We don't have the facilities here at the museum to conserve an item like this, so we would have to send it out to a professional conservator. they would have to study this. They would have to figure out what it looked like originally. They'd replace some small parts. They would support it with backing. They would get it back so that it looked similar to what it originally looked like. But we don't want it to look new. We want to keep it with all of its dings and dirt, because that tells the story. We don't have the facilities here, and so we have to pay somebody to do that. Oftentimes that can run into the thousands of dollars, and we need your help in order to keep these artifacts looking good and supported in our galleries, so that our visitors can come and visit them and know that these are being taken care of. We also have artifacts that when they come in, they're still pretty stable. They're in good shape. This is a saddle valise that belonged to Jefferson Davis. As you can see, the leather is still fairly pliable. It's in fairly decent condition. This was actually captured in May of 1865 when Jefferson Davis was captured in Irwinsville, Georgia. And so it's quite a nice piece, and hopefully it'll be around for many generations. These pieces are just some of the artifacts in the collection that tell the story about the heroes and legends of the Civil War. And we're going to need your help in order to keep them in good shape so that they are around for many future generations. Now I'd like to introduce you to Gary Edelman, a friend of the museum, who has a special message for you.
Hi, I'm Gary Edelman, Chief Historian at the American Battlefield Trust, and we partner with the National Civil War Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania a lot. And I wanted to take a minute to explain why. But it's really simple, actually. They have a great collection. They are great curators of that collection. They are phenomenal storytellers and excellent educators. And this is something that we really need at the Trust. We preserve land and we educate and inspire people about America's founding conflicts. And when we take people out to battlefields to try to preserve land, we can tell stories and we can show photos, but there's something that's missing, and that is the objects, the material culture, the stuff of the past. And unlike a lot of curators and facilities, the National Civil War Museum is there in their museum. They are online with the objects, and once in a while they're out in the field with those objects. I can remember numerous times where I've been out in the field with members of the Trust and others, and just watch their jaws drop when Wayne Motts and Brett Kelly and others bring out some of their incredible items, and it really completes the stories. This is why we partner with the excellent National Civil War Museum. They do a great job with their events. They're great to work with, and this is why our partnership will endure.
Gary, thank you so much for that description of partnership, most especially with the American Battlefield Trust. For 19 years, the National Civil War Museum has worked to partner with other organizations, with individuals, and with institutions. And we think that telling the story goes beyond us, so we love to do that. I'm inside the Gettysburg Gallery here at the National Civil War Museum, and one of the things I really enjoy about this is not just telling the stories here within these four walls, but also telling the story in other ways. And that includes our Facebook page. I know many of you follow and like our Facebook posts, also on YouTube where we're posting our videos and educational programming. And one of the things that the museum has done over the last few years, which I think is pioneering, there's no other museum in the country that really does this, and that's taking our artifacts out of the museum, getting them on the battlefield, getting them to the places where they really were or have connection to. And that's really great when we want to make a personal connection to the audience that we're trying to reach. Now, I'm going to walk through the galleries, and while I do so, I want you to take a look at some of the photos of our special trips that we've had. Thanks.
In 2017, the National Civil War Museum introduced our See, Touch, and Feel Battlefield Tour. Our first stop was Gettysburg National Military Park. Leading the way, our CEO and licensed battlefield guide, Wayne Motts. Under the supervision of our curator, Brett Kelly, we were able to examine and photograph rare artifacts. Our tours are designed so that stories, people, and items all come together in the place where they made history. Through this shared experience, we have a better understanding of the importance of artifact preservation. Antietam National Battlefield was our 2018 destination. With battlefield guide and author Steve Recker, we experienced Dunker Church, Bloody Lane, and the Wheat Field. Returning these artifacts to the place where they made history is an experience that our guests will not soon forget. As we revisit the places made famous by heroes and legends of the American Civil War, we learn many new lessons in history. Before heading home that day, many people asked, "Will you go back to Gettysburg?" And the answer was yes. With brand new artifacts and fresh stories, we explored one of the most famous and popular Civil War battlefields. We stopped at the Peach Orchard, Barlow's Knoll, Slider Farm, and the high water mark of the Confederacy. With each of these tours, our guests have time to examine and photograph rare pieces of history in their truest of settings. We hope that we'll be able to gather once again very soon for one of these unique battlefield tours. Maybe then you too will hold history in the palm of your hand.
Hello everyone, it's Mary Beth again. And just like you, I'm at home this evening. I wish I were in the ballroom with you at our Blue and Gray Gala or at any one of the other great events that are held at the National Civil War Museum. But that's not going to happen this year. We're hoping that we'll be able to get together again in 2021. COVID-19 has deeply impacted the National Civil War Museum, and your gifts this evening will help us to be able to continue our mission of education and preservation about the American Civil War. If you're unable to give, that's fine too. But if you'd like to make a gift and you're able, just remember, a gift of $100 or more, if you're one of the first 100 donors, your name will be entered onto an invitation list for our first big event when we're able to get back together again. If you make a gift of $50 or more, your name will be entered into a drawing for a battlefield tour with our CEO and licensed battlefield guide, Wayne Motts, at Gettysburg for yourself and 3 friends. If you make a gift of $25 or more, your name will be entered into a drawing to take a tour with our curator behind the scenes at the National Civil War Museum for yourself and 3 friends. So we hope that you're able to give, and we thank you for giving us some of your time this evening. But right now, I'd like to switch gears, because tonight we're excited to announce that we're going to be kicking off a raffle for the next 9 months. For $10, you can purchase a chance to win either a Springfield or an Enfield reproduction Civil War era musket with bayonet. Now, the tickets are available in our gift shop, or you can go online to our website, www.nationalcivilwarmuseum.org, and click on the raffle section. All the rules are there, and you can purchase your tickets directly there, and the tickets will be mailed to you. Or you can write a check, address it to Attention Raffle, and purchase as many tickets as you like, and we'll mail them back to you. The drawing will take place on June 19th, 2021 at our Community Free Day at 2 p.m. You don't need to be present to win, but you will have to take care of some of the legal ramifications of transfer of ownership, according to Pennsylvania state law. All of that is laid out on our website. So, thank you for joining us. We hope you'll take advantage of the raffle, and we hope we'll see you at the National Civil War Museum again soon.
I've spent a lot of time talking about personal stories. So I want to give you a little personal story about me and how I got interested in the American Civil War and tell you why I think that's important to what we do here. I got interested in the Civil War because my father used to read to me entries from a Civil War diary that belonged to a Civil War soldier killed in the war. And that reading of those entries really set me on a path to pursue lifelong the study of history. What we want to do here at the National Civil War Museum is tell a lot of stories, and if we can get one that resonates with you, one that connects with you, one that connects with everyone that comes here, then it will be a lifelong learning process about the American Civil War and why that is important. When I came here, of course, I'm very interested in artifacts and items, and I went through the collection and looked around. And one of the things that really got me interested here at the National Civil War Museum, and it really shows what we're trying to do here, is this tactical manual. This tactical manual belonged to Captain Henry Fuller of the 64th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, and he was killed on July 2nd, 1863, when he was just 22 years old. Now, this manual is actually stained in his blood. To me, it's one of the most personal, it's one of the most connected artifacts we have in the American Civil War here at the National Civil War Museum. It's very hard for me, because I'm interested in all these things, to come up with personal favorite, but this would be one of them, because when you look at this, you know about the sacrifice related to the American Civil War. We think 620,000 people died in the American Civil War. We don't know exactly how many, but I can tell you this, every single one of those stories needs to be told. And here at the National Civil War Museum, we're going to do everything we can do to tell them, but we can't do it without your help. So we hope that you'll take this time to help us tell these stories like Captain Fuller here at the museum. Thanks.
I'm in one of our 2 temporary exhibit galleries. With 2 temporary exhibit galleries, we have the opportunity to mount a new exhibit every 6 months, running for 1 year in an alternating schedule. This allows us to show artifacts that are not usually seen in the permanent galleries and focus on subjects that may be overlooked in the larger story of the war. From conception to installation, museum staff work to ensure that each exhibit supports our education mission. If you're considering an artifact donation, it's an easy process. Contact me by phone or email. Once we have established that your artifact is suitable for the museum's collection and that you are comfortable with your decision, we can move forward. After the artifact has been received, I will prepare our standard deed of gift form for your signature. This document will transfer ownership from you, the donor, to the museum. You will receive 2 copies, one for you to sign and return to the museum, the other to keep for your records. Once the museum receives the donor's signed deed of gift, the donation is complete. As a certified 501c3 nonprofit institution, all donations are tax deductible. Please see your tax professional or contact the IRS for applicable rules. The museum staff are bound by the Code of Ethics for museum professionals as set forth by the American Alliance of Museums and are not able to perform appraisals. The museum may not compensate a donor for expenses related to the donation. You are responsible for transportation of the donation and may either ship or deliver it in person to the museum. Once an artifact has been donated, it cannot be returned. The National Civil War Museum has received hundreds of donations containing thousands of artifacts over the years. Each donor is permanently linked to their donation via a credit line that is noted on each artifact label that is placed on exhibit. Preservation is our priority so that these items will remain available to our visitors for many generations to come. I hope that you will consider donating your treasured Civil War artifacts.
I'm standing inside the Education Gallery at the National Civil War Museum, and during a good part of the year, this room is packed full of school students, most especially in the spring and in the fall. Unfortunately, we're not able to host those students right now because of COVID-19, but that doesn't mean that the museum's educational mission does not continue. As I spoke earlier, we're continuing our educational offerings on our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there, also on our Facebook post, and we can bring the educational classroom and the educational resources here at the National Civil War Museum right to you, whether that be by Zoom or by Google Hangout, right into the classroom. And all you need to do is contact the National Civil War Museum to be able to do that.
Why is the history of the Civil War in education important? You've probably heard the saying, in order to get where we're going, we need to know where we've been. And that's never been more true than it is today. Here at the National Civil War Museum, we want to educate our young visitors. We want them to come here and learn the basics about the Civil War. We want them to see an artifact that is going to spark their imagination. We want them to be able to handle reproduction artifacts that will put history in their hands. We want them to go home and instead of playing games on the computer, we want them to log in and go to a history site. We want them to follow up. We want them to be excited about history. I can remember when I was 17 years old, my family took one of the first trips out of New England up to that point. I'm from Vermont, and I had never been outside of New England. We took a trip down to Atlanta. We stopped at Gettysburg, Antietam, Manassas, all the big battlefields on the way down, and it was life-changing for me. Up to that point, I had never really thought about history. But when I was able to walk those fields and understand the stories of the men and women who fought there, it just expanded my mind, and it made me want to learn more. When I got home, I started learning about the Civil War, and I have not stopped until this day. Even though I have almost unlimited resources here at the museum, I still learn every day, and it is so exciting for me. And that's what I want our visitors to take away. I want them to be excited about history. I want them to take the lessons they've learned here and expand them, share them, keep them moving on. I want them to be able to tell these stories to their kids, to their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and so on down the line. The history of the Civil War, in that pivotal moment of our nation's history, has never been more important than it is today. There were heroes on the battlefields, there were heroes on the home front, and they all played very important roles in shaping the country that we know today. And so when you come to the museum, I hope that you leave with more than just a feeling that you went through a building and saw a bunch of old things. I hope that you leave here feeling that you have been renewed in some way, that you have a new interest, that you have a new excitement for the history and for the future of our country. I hope to see you at the museum.
I want to thank all of you for participating in the event tonight. I want to thank all those who helped create this virtual event for us here at the National Civil War Museum. All of you are heroes to us here at the museum. And I could go on and on thanking everyone, but I want to make sure that our staff, volunteers, and friends do that for me. Thanks.